Welcome back, Dota 2 fans, for our second game and our second best of 3 of the day. We've got SVB versus Aspera for you. SVB taking a nail biter at 70 minutes in game 1, and looks like both teams are eager to get this underway in the draft in game 2. Looking pretty quick thus far. I am MRP, with me is Lyrical Gangster. We are your English coverage. What are you expecting, if anything, that Aspera is going to change to try and bring this to game 3?
You know, I'm not exactly completely and totally sure. My gut would tell me something to potentially finish it off a little bit more quickly. The ability to take high ground. They take the gyrocopter away from SVB right from the start. That makes a whole heck of a lot of sense to me, not wanting to have to repeat that last engagement that they went into in the previous game.
Yeah, it makes sense. A little bit of burst damage taken by SVB here. The Lina completely ignored last game. Picks and bans is a little precarious, considering how strong she has been recently, and really the nerfs to the LSA, not the biggest deal, and the 100 damage off the Laguna either. So definitely still a very strong hero. It'll be interesting to see if they throw that in the core role or not, but either way, going to pick it up early on alongside the Undying. So Dale playing that Undying last game did pretty darn well. We'll see if that goes back into his capable hands. But Alchemist ban is actually going to come out for Aspera here. So despite the fact that he himself didn't do too much, they are somewhat afraid of that, and they'll ban out the Visage again from SVB for this second game.
It makes sense. You sort of have a little bit of shell shock at the end of the game there, where you've just got this sort of constant pressure you're having to put up against this lineup, and you don't want to have to go up against it again, I'm sure. I do like the Dazzle pickup as well, a hero that did get banned out last time as well. He's just a really, really great hero all around the board, and I think that, you know, particularly against, honestly, the burst damage, he can be somewhat good as well. He does have the possibility to not be able to get the Grave off in time, but if he does, you can almost completely and totally nullify that Laguna Blade there. So we'll see how will these Graves end up being when they come on out for this laning stage, and Tusk going to be the next one picked up by Aspera, running him again.
Yeah, definitely if Lina dishes out her full toolkit into a shallow Grave, that could be pretty detrimental for SVB's side. So don't mind the Dazzle pick here. It looks like, as you mentioned, they're going to queue up the aggression on Aspera's side. Dazzle, AA, Tusk. Definitely nothing to scoff at there early on. You can snowball all three of those heroes in for a big shadow wave on top of the chilling touch early on. So it could be a pretty potent combo early from them. You will get the IO you wish for in game 1. And in fact, it's going to be an IO Tiny coming out from SVB.
Pretty freaking cool, I have to say. I always love to see this hero. The combo itself is always really nice as well. Just tons of burst damage. We were talking about it before, and they're continuing the trend. The other thing here to note is I believe that Tiny got an intelligence boost as well as a strength boost. So should by level 2 be able to toss out his full combo.
Yeah, he can. I think can toss out his full combo with a full mana pool with one branch, can very reliably do it. But yeah, it's a pretty significant buff from what I've seen. We've actually seen Tinies without the IO to some success so thus far in the National Cup. So it'll be interesting to see how much traction they get under his heels. At this point, that probably indicates that Lina is in a support role, but she could be safe lane, or they could run the IO in the safe lane as well. Aspera with an interesting 5th pick here, especially if he's going to be up against that dual lane of the IO Tiny mid. They're going to go with the Dragon Knight.
The thing that's tough about this right now is that if you're Aspera, like you mentioned, dual mid of IO Tiny, like SVB can coordinate this last pick to do whatever they want to do with the draft. They still have a decent amount of maneuverability, and so because of that, I think that they're probably going to try and lay down the pressure in the mid lane with IO Tiny. Dragon Knight's going to be there, which means Dazzle's going to have to rotate and be there to support him, because he can't handle that lane all on his own. That leaves potentially Tusk and Alone up in the top lane, and then why are you picking Ancient Apparition? Because he can't really do much with Gyrocopter on his own. It's a little tough.
Yeah, certainly so. The laning decision going to be interesting to say the least from Aspera, and SVB seems like they've kind of backed them into a corner in this draft. Very intelligent to pick up that Lina in the first phase to cover the IO. So really, there's not much burst to directly target and focus down this IO unless they catch him out of position here. Very concerning, as well as the limited amount of catch for Aspera's item. They got a Dragon Tail, a Snowball, and some Ice Shards, and that is about it. Definitely don't want to count Cold Feet and Homing Missile as anything reliable. So Aspera a little bit lacking on the catch, and with the extra move speed from Fiery Soul, Yule Scepter, the slow from Tombstone, and the tether move speed, SVB at this point seem like they're kind of going to have free reign in these team fights.
Absolutely. Waiting for the last support here as well out of SVB. They might see a hero that's sort of built into trying to take away that disable and the stun stuff that you have. Maybe an Abaddon, potentially. They go for the Lion, a little bit more control on their own end. And I like this pick a lot. It gives them a strong laning presence wherever they want to end up putting him. And across the board, I'm loving it. And let's get right back on into this game in just a second.
Alrighty, the good old crash. I'm just going to go ahead and restart team the first time around, so that I don't get the second crash, hopefully. But yeah, it should be a really good one. I don't mind the last pick Lion. I did expect something like an Omni or an Abaddon, to be honest, as you were alluding to there. But still, the Lion offers some pretty damn useful disable, of course. And with a comboed alongside the Lina, they can definitely have some kill potential around level 2 or 3. So we'll see how well they fare, presumably in that top lane, with the Undying over in the offlane.
You know, and I have to say again, it's somewhat interesting to me because last time it was Aspera doing the sort of ratty tight moves, and this time around with the IO Tiny, you have some potential for that of your own in your own right out of SVB. So kind of switching roles a little bit. One side goes aggressive the first game, the other side goes aggressive the second game. I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, it looks like the Steam relog actually worked for me. So back in the game, and yeah, gonna be interesting to see how SVB utilize this draft. I feel like it's very well rounded. The one thing that perhaps they will be punished for is having that Undying, perhaps presumably totally alone in the off lane. Certainly Gyrocopter plus any 2 supports have some serious kill potential there, so we'll see how they fare. Definitely worried for Dragon Knight mid though for this Aspera Radiant team, but we'll jump in and introduce the teams. I'll take Aspera, trying to take this to a deciding game 3 on the Radiant side. Afterlife gonna pick up the Tusk. 1101 gonna switch up his roles a bit. Was in that off lane last game. He's gonna play that 1 position gyro. Arzeek gonna be on the Dazzle. Undefeated Gaul on the Ancient Apparition. Undershock is on the Dragon Knight finally, and I'm gonna crash again. So
yeah, myself as well.
Go ahead.
Always. Yeah, I crashed as well. Dota 2, please. What's going on here? We need some fixes. You know, we are still in beta here for the Dota 2 Reborn, but
just take us back 4 years basically with this launching of this client. And interesting that you call it Dota 2. Truthfully, it is the only Dota 2. So Dota 2 is buggy as hell. I mean, everyone wants to say Reborn this and Reborn that, but Dota 2 is in a bad state right now.
That's a true statement. Oh my goodness, you're missing out on a little something. They went through a smoke through the jungle, a big snowball into the dire jungle, and they were able to catch on out and kill the Lina. So nicely done there. My frame rate is going through the trash right now. But no big deal at all. I'll introduce SVB. We've got Dale who's here, who's going to be playing the Undying. Worst exclamation point question mark is going to be playing the Wisp. Not sure about that. Smiley is going to be playing the Lion. We have Wishmaster on the safe lane Lina, and then Pikachu going to be playing that Tiny.
Yeah, we'll see how that mid lane dual lane fares, and they're gonna secure that early bottle for worst on the Wisp there with that early bounty rune. So that's gonna be very nice for the mid lane. Already gonna be able to spam out that Avalanche Toss combo at level 2. So we'll see if Undershock's accompanied by a Dazzle or AA early on. It looks like the Dazzle is gonna rotate over, at least for the time being, for Arzeek, but else it's gonna be a rough go for this Dragon Knight mid lane. We'll see how Undershock fares. Of course, he did very well as his LC up against the Alchemist in game 1 despite the loss.
Yeah, that lane went really, really well for him. The other thing here that's somewhat not said super often, but the change that Dragon Knight came through with the Breathe Fire, getting the reduction to base damage, really effective against Tiny because Tiny is all base damage. So I think that that's something that's pretty substantial here. You're going to see a pretty decent sized reduction, 20% at level 1. That's going to make last hitting a little bit more difficult. And across the board, I think that while it is going to be a tough lane, he has some tools in his kit that help him deal with it.
Yeah, he can definitely He'll definitely be given the priority on the courier to bottle Crow pretty effectively and continuously spam out that breathe fire. In the last patch, notably, that breathe fire duration on the debuff was increased. So Worst already going to look to de-ward his camps here, and unfortunately not going to be able to get through these trees to get down the large camp, but does get out that medium camp, at least for now. He is going to want to prepare some stacks for Pikachu in the jungle. Top lane, LSA gonna miss. Afterlife coming through with a few right clicks. Doesn't have an Orb of Venom, so Wishmaster should be able to outrun him here. But we'll take quite a bit of harass damage from the Tusk.
Yeah, and the Lion's coming around the backside. Had Lina opted to potentially turn there, might have had an opportunity, but now the range creep going to follow around this Lion for a second. Kind of a little bit different, seeing both lanes pulled over to the side. Up in the top rune, are we going to see Undershock be able to get this rune? Don't know if it's going to be able to happen. The Io is taking a lot of damage. The Dragon Knight does pick up the Bounty rune, and now we have the Tusk snowballing as well. That might end up being dead for worst, and now Pikachu is just going to be able to walk away, but his buddy Io did end up getting taken down there.
Yeah, no rotation in time from the Lion. Pikachu does not have enough mana for a combo as well, so he's going to have to walk his rock back to the lane. And bot lane, so we're diving a bit deep onto Dale, but he's more than healthy enough with the 2 decay stacks. And bot lane, regeneration rune scouted, and so far not going to be taken by the AA, leaving that for the Dragon Knight for the time being. Io returning to mid lane, did get that D-ward done. And can now start to commit some stacks as this 3-minute mark comes to missing.
Yeah, and I like the sort of movement here of being able to, you know, right-click the hard camp and then get the medium camp as well and do the double stack. Always nice to see that happen. Of course, this does leave Pikachu a little bit vulnerable in lane for those couple of seconds where Io is stacking up those other camps. So maybe the Radiant end up trying to make something happen in those moments when it does occur. Kind of difficult to time that out with everybody else, but a little bit of a heal bomb. Pikachu getting low is going to be able to survive through that little salvo of Dragon's Breathe Fire, but a little bit dangerous there at the very beginning.
Yeah, Dazzle poking his head out mid lane, unbeknownst to the SVB side, but Pikachu will be just fine for now. Another heal bomb going to come through, and it's quite a bit of mana, but it's still only the level 1, or now a level 2 Shadow Wave for RZ, and he's actually putting quite a bit of harass over into worst. He's going to have to tether up to a creep there, so this pseudo dual lane from Aspera has really secured the Dragon Knight quite a bit of farm. 15 CS on the DK compared to the 16 of the Tiny, and you would definitely expect the Tiny to have an advantage with his comrade nearby. Top Brownie rune is going to be contested by Afterlife. He's going to be able to pick it up. Has no mana, but will be able to right-click the hell out of this Smiley Lion and perhaps even bring him down, barring any rotations over. The Wisp is on the east side, and we'll be able to bottle him up. We'll be able to turn, and they will catch the Earth Spike, but Haste still with more than enough duration to get Afterlife out.
Bottom lane, we're seeing Dale get a little bit deep. He did drop the Tombstone. That probably saved his life for all intents and purposes, just based upon how low his HP is at this point in time. The Tombstone is going to end up falling and now needs to back on out yet again. More engagements in the mid lane. It's always really, really scary when you've got the dual melees in the mid lane, because there's a ton of opportunities for you to be able to make kills happen, even just make large plays in terms of decrease in the enemy HP. So action can happen fast and furious here, and as I'm talking about it, there is the Avalanche toss. Do they have any follow-up? Not at this point in time. Tiny just going to be content to make Undershock pay a little bit for his positioning.
Yeah, they are going to rotate the Dazzle and look for the heal bomb. Not going to find it. Dragon Tail is there. Avatar's cooling down in just a second, so Undershock wisely so. He's going to back off. He'll get salved up and be able to return to lane to find his level 6. And that Dragon form going to be available soon. And he'll be able to start putting some pressure onto both the Wisp and the tower. Top lane Afterlife going to soak some XP here. Doesn't seem like he'll be punished very much at all for his troubles. He'll catch an Earth Spike and the Hex. Here comes the LSA, but it's actually going to whiff. And a Laguna Blade will be there, though. Snowball not channeled up. And just as she hits level 6, Wishmaster gonna make me eat my words and punish the Tusk.
Yeah, pretty nice there to be able to make that one happen. You know, I will say the other thing here is that Pikachu's been doing a very, very stats-intensive build, does have the Bracer, has the Wand as well. He started out with the 2 Circlets, 2 Ironwood Branches, and because of that, his mana pool is pretty significant right now, and with the Wand charges building up as well, I think that he can probably almost get 3 stacks off of all of his spells. if he's able to sort of sustain through that tossed 9-second cooldown. It does look like we're getting ready for initiation here down in the bot lane. Io is coming in as well with the spirits. Undefeated Gaul taking a lot of damage. The tombstone is down as well. It looks like the Dazzle's going to come on in and try and heal them up. It's going to be okay. Pikachu taking a lot of damage as well. It's going to need to back on out, but the zombies are surrounding everybody. Dragon form out as well. Undershock trying to take on down the tombstone. It looks like he's going to be able to get it. There's the Dragon Tail on top of Pikachu. He's taking a lot of damage as well. The K-Stacks on top of Dale. It looks like they're going to be able to just barely get away from that one.
Undershock bottling up. We'll have enough for a Dragon Tail fairly soon, but doesn't want to chase a little bit too deep there. He will use the Dragon form, however, so small win essentially for SVB in that sense, but won't be able to put any pressure onto a building with that first Dragon form.
Yeah, Dazzle apparently did go down in that team fight as well, so that's a decent little change there for SVB. 2 kills apiece at this point in time, but like you said, using the Dragon form, he's going to have to try and make something of this, getting a right-click off on the tower whenever possible. But with Io, or with Tiny coming back in, he's going to have to back on out before he gets taken out.
Yep, Pikachu returning to lane, and his Wisp soon to do the same, it seems. In terms of the CS overall, Lina doing very well. Gyrocopter right up her alley, and Undershock sitting there with Pikachu's rotation bottom. He's a little bit behind, but we'll have a couple of stacks to return to. Triple stack in the large camp, and it looks like just a double over in that medium camp. Mid lane, Dragon Tail out onto Pikachu, but don't have enough to kill him off through the sustain of the Wisp.
Yeah, it looks like Tiny here is going to be building on into those treads next. Does have enough for it, and might be bringing that brought out to him. We'll see if that indeed is what he's going to want to go for here. Lots of options at this point in time as far as the Tiny is sort of concerned. I think that probably we're going to see him relatively soon here try and take out the stacks, but it's pretty difficult. Meanwhile, Afterlife did get the smoke on up. There's 4 heroes mid now, really wanting to be able to get the kill, but it looks like they're going to find the DD down in the bot lane, and not going to find anybody so far for the Radiant.
Smart maneuver here by the Radiant side. They're just going to look to farm up the stacks. With the call down the Ice Shards, they'll be able to put a big hit into the economic recovery mechanic for SVB, and they take out at least the large camp here. Only a double stack in the medium camp, so not a big deal for them. Mid lane, Dragon Tail goes out onto Pikachu. He's trying to find the combo onto one of the 2 heroes, but will be backed off, and now coming from the north with the Rocket Barrage and the Breeze Fire, they bring down the Wisp very quickly. LSA is onto 2 though with the Dragon Scythe. Earthspike through 2 as well. Grave gonna keep up Afterlife for now, and Wishmaster getting really low. Avalanche will be there to delay things. LSA gonna miss, and Pikachu is gonna try and get into range for that toss, but has no one near him. No one came with him, and Undershock with that extra move speed, he's gonna try and back out. There's a toss from melee range. We'll bring him down finally. Meanwhile, Lion does go down in the mid lane. Afterlife still barely surviving, and the Wisp coming back in, does not have relocate and will not for a little while, so can't look to find a kill on the Tusk or anything of that nature. They ping out the stacks. They're gonna go and find an unpleasant surprise here from the Radiant side.
Yeah, that's a little bit too bad. The sort of silver lining on the cloud here is they didn't take the medium stack, which obviously isn't as good as the large camp there that they had, but also Tiny was able to get a good amount of farm in that whole engagement there. Gyrocopter ended up getting taken out. He got around 500 to 600 gold, and it's not the worst in the world, but certainly not the best. It's going to be a tough little round here for him now. He definitely needs to be able to find some kills and make his presence felt across the map to be able to catch up here, I think.
Yeah, and Dying working on his mechanism, just has the 2 recipes towards the buckler and the headdress. At this point, probably panic bought those before essentially dying mid. Dragon Form going to cool down in 5 seconds here. And the AA trying to find some space bottom himself. Undying does have a tombstone available, so maybe can look to find a little bit of aggressive potential there, but unaware of what lurks in the shadows, won't be able to do so. Laguna Blade's ready top, and Smiley gonna jump forward with that Hex, has the Earth Spike as well. LSA can follow, Dragon Slave, Laguna Blade, and an easy kill for this duo, and that's exactly what they drafted it for. Jump forward from Afterlife, he's gonna try and bring down Wishmaster alongside the Dazzle, but not sure if they really have the damage with this duo, albeit with the slows, they are able to bring her down very low, and a heal bomb onto the Kukwe will bring down the Lina. Smiley in trouble too, and still no TP rotations from anyone as deep as this dive is. And that duo will find very nice couple of revenge kills on the Lina and the Lion for their 1 position gyro.
Yeah, they didn't have enough mana on that Tiny in the mid lane, and what's an IO to do? It was a little bit tough there. Dale also apparently wanted to hang out a little bit longer. Unfortunately, Undefeated Gaul also now has level 6 Icy Blast. That's going to end up connecting onto Dale. He's going to end up going down here. Really nicely done to finish him off. The gyrocopter kill was huge, but then losing 2 afterwards, really unfortunate. It looks like Tiny not able to hit the avalanche that time on to the gyrocopter.
Well. And before dying, Dale fed over his tombstone, so he 350 gold to the gyro on top of everything. So things looking good for Aspera in this game. And they look good, to be fair, early on for them in game 1 as well. So SVB, though, not quite the late game insurance policy in terms of lineup that they had in game 1. Really just a tiny in terms of hard right clickers late game. Mid lane, Corrosive Breath going to bring this tower into deny range, and Dale has TP'd in alongside Smiley to try and deny it up.
Yeah, nicely done there. Always good to be able to get those whenever possible, and I'm sure that that's what they're going to end up going for here, as it does end up getting denied on out. Meanwhile, down in the bot lane, we're still seeing Pikachu get pretty much everything that he wants. He is probably going to be going for a Blink Dagger next. I feel like that's the build. Dragonite just picking his up as well, about 1,000 gold ahead of him.
Yeah, it's going to be drums actually first, it seems, for Pikachu.
Oh.
I guess with the active as well as the tether move speed, he figures that gives him enough to bridge the gap, much like a Blink would. But yeah, in general, Blink is a lot safer to secure you the kill on the Tiny. But they're going to 5-man smoke here off the back of that drum pickup. And Wisp, nowhere near the relocate, so they are going to have to try and find out an important target here. Dire Vision scouts out the Dazzle. Who just drops a ward of his own, and he's going to see this smoke pop here. For some reason, the Undying is the one in the front of the smoke, and they're going to toss him in. He's going to drop the Tombstone, has no disables, of course, but they will jump in, and the Finger of Death will finish off the Dazzle early. Ice Blast is going to hit onto 3, and they'll melt the Undying pretty quick. Pikachu to fall right there after the Breathe Fire is there. Lina falls 4 down already, and the Wisp, the only one alive. 3 seconds on tether, and the call down. First missile going to hit. Homing missile going to hit, second missile, and it's a 5-man wipe for SVB. Not even able to bring down the Tusk there. They blow up the Dazzle very early on, but they jump into a choke point against an Ancient Apparition, and that's never what you want to be doing.
Yeah, that was disgustingly good. You had Chilling Touch go out, Ice Vortex, the Icy Blast went out afterwards. So much magical damage and just nothing really there to be able to deal with it. Into the Gyrocopter, Breathe Fire, they all got hit by everything that got tossed out. I think Dazzle even got off the Heal Bomb at the end of it, and it's just a little bit too much to be able to sort of go up against. They were hoping to potentially just be able to pick off that Dazzle with a quickness, but unfortunately didn't end up working out that way. Ancient Apparition now has his Midas as well at 14 minutes. Not a bad pickup for him.
Not bad at all. 14 minutes, really great timing in his position, and that'll help him translate into a reasonably timed Agony, presumably here. Dale going to catch a Poison Touch mid lane, and Dazzle playing a lot more aggressive than he needs to be, but perhaps sending the impression towards SVB, and they will back off out of mid lane. We'll see if Undershock at all gets scouted. They plant a deep Observer Ward here for the Radiant side, so they have some pretty good information. Pikachu maybe a little bit caught out. There's a Blink Dragon Tail available. Wisp is behind him though. And jump forward, Dragon Tail is going to find the Wisp with the call down. They bring him down. Now Pikachu in a lot of trouble as well. He pops his Drum Charge trying to get away from the Gyrocopter. Will be able to do so. They bring down the Wisp. Meanwhile, Dale brings down the Tusk bot lane and is going forward for our Zeke as well. TPs are inbound, though, from Undershock. And Undershock's completely out of mana at this point, or close to being out of mana. 2-man decay stack going to be popped up as well by Dale. He's sitting on 1200 HP at this point, but no further aggression from the Dire side. They find a pick on the Tusk and lose their Wisp and Lina across the map, so still asserting their dominance right now is the Aspera side.
Definitely. If you take a look at net worth right now, it's looking at about 7,500 EXP. We're sitting at about a similar number, 7,500 as well. And it's looking like they're able to make those team fight plays happen that they want to have happen. Last game you saw there that, SVB, they wanted to try and take the team fight, and Aspera weren't letting them do it, basically. Or, sorry, flip that. Aspera wanted to take the team fight. Nope, SVB took the team fight. Aspera weren't letting them do that. And now we're seeing the roles reversed again. And up in the top lane, oh my god, the gyrocopter goes down again. Lina getting the last hit there. The gyrocopter did end up taking out the Lion in the end. And a little bit of back and forth. The Gyro Knight takes the tower down bot. They're trying to take down this Tombstone as well. And it's just looking like Aspera has all the answers, despite that gyrocopter dying in the top lane.
Yeah, he still finds a kill, even though he was flanked by 3 heroes there, so really unfortunate they don't even get a clean pick off for SVB's side. And with the Dragon Knight, I mean, they're pushing a lot slower on their side, despite having the overcharge from the Wisp, so they really need to address this issue of the tier 2 being chipped away at bottom lane. Fortunately for them, only damage dealer bottom is the Undershot Dragon Knight, so they can rotate back and make a defense, and expect them to do so soon. But Aspera will back off for the time being. Undershot going to be able to TP out and continue farming away.
Just going to toss out an Icy Blast just to mess with Smiley and Dale a little bit more. Always nice to see that happen. A Midas going to be picked up by the Tiny now. So I think that this is the point in time where they're going to opt to try and really slow down the pace of the game as much as possible and try and split push whenever possible, trade towers at somewhat reasonable. And honestly, I think that the trade of the tier 1 top for the damage dealt on the tier 2 bottom is kind of worth it for them, because you're sort of looking at least being able to take something in return, whereas if you went to try and defend that, all 5 of you guys, I feel like they would just get completely and totally eviscerated.
Yeah, I mean, once this Midas begins to pay off for Pikachu, there's still a lot of gold on the map for SVB. I mean, tier 1 in the mid lane, tier 1 in the bot lane can both be backdoored with overcharge once he picks up the Aghanims, which is effectively a quelling blade against buildings. So Tiny, definitely no slouch in the late game, and the Midas indicates, as you mentioned, that they want to take it there for now. So look for Aspera to consider balling up here, and they're going to pick up the BKB pretty soon on Undershot Dragon Knight, and there is little to deal with him at that point. So once they get at that item and perhaps an Aegis, look for them to queue up the aggression towards the SVB base. We'll see how they deal with it. Until then, not much else in the way of item pickups to speak of. Yule's Scepter has been out for a while on the Lina, and the mech picked up by the Undying. The Gyrocopter goes into an H-Dom after his drums, and as we mentioned, BKB being worked on by the DK.
Yeah, the mech got picked up just now by the Tusk as well. I'm surprised I haven't seen a medallion yet. As you mentioned, you know, being able to build into that, very, very important. It looks like Dazzle might be the person that ends up going for it eventually, in my guess. But he does pick up a cloak as well, just to be able to deal with that extra damage coming on out. There's the BKB. And I think that probably, as you mentioned, Aspera grouping up together, trying to take maybe one more tower somewhere, and then going in for the Roshan. They could probably go for Roshan right now, but they need a pickoff first, which is kind of hard to come by.
Yeah, relocate yet to be utilized, and them walking into the pit would certainly give them an avenue to use it for SVB. They've got this high ground ward for actually just expired for the dire side, so now they are blind relatively around the Roche pit. RZ poking his head out bot lane is going to get hexed up and impaled. Lina going to be there with the Laguna Blade finger combo. Has a really no chance of surviving. And in the backlines, they're going to rotate in for expecting rotations. And they're going to combo up Afterlife and bring him down as well. Ice Blast going to fly through. And it's going to hit on a few here. Actually, just only the Tiny, but the call down onto 3. The mech going to be a little bit too late to survive. And the Flat Cannon brings down 2 double kill for 1101. Pikachu trying to TP out in the tree line. He will be able to do so. Overall, 2 down from the dire side. And Dale probably going to fall as well. So, still a good rotation in from the end to salvage it for Aspera. But considering the state of the game, pretty good for SVB. And actually, somehow the Undying is going to make it out. I have no idea how he just walked under their noses to make it out there.
It was basically the Tombstone ended up keeping 1101 a little bit distance between him and the Undying, just because there were so many zombies in the area, and then Undershock wasn't able to get there in time. Really surprising that he was able to get away from that one. But again, it's just one of those situations where I feel like SVB at this point, they went on over to try and take down the tower. stuck around just ever so slightly too long and got punished for it. Because this team fight out of Aspera, the ability to push early, this sort of constant minus armor that you're seeing as well with the weave and everything else, it's a lot to deal with, and they're able to do it really effectively. They'll take any team fight they can take at this point, and you see that now with the Tusk jumping in on worst. Other teammates TPing in as well. The AA blast doesn't end up connecting onto anybody. Gyrocopter slow on top of Pikachu. That's going to end up keeping him a little bit further behind, but it looks like he's probably just going to be able to walk away at this point in time, the Tiny.
Yeah, they see the Dragon Knight there with this high ground ward, and I definitely think better of it. Take a clean pick on the Tusk, and it doesn't cost them all that much. Still have the relocate available. Dire Vision planted a little bit deep, or Radiant Vision a little bit deep on the Dire side as well. Relocate top lane is going to be a little bit too far to the west, but the Drum Charge going to allow him to close the distance onto Undefeated, and that'll be a dead AA. So 2 kills in about 2 minutes for this Tiny IO combo, and they will be able to relocate back into the warm hands of their teammates here. Dragon Knight stalking the mid with the blink available. We'll just throw out a Breathe Fire for now, try and nuke down the wave and save their tower from being pressed upon. But Tombstone going to be dropped down, and it looks like the Dire side are at least half committed to taking this tower mid lane. Need to probably think better of it though. Tiny sitting pretty low at this point, and they will end up backing up, getting over a Tombstone to Undershock, but could have been much worse if they stuck around.
Absolutely. I think that, you know, when you've got the sort of the push coming in here, you drop on down the Tombstone, and you've somewhat committed, like you said, or at least half committed to the push. And I don't know if SVB can really do that. Like, if you just sort of, if you drop the Tombstone, that means it's going to be gone for an extended period of time. You see them split pushing down both of the other lanes, and now you're sort of in this situation where you can't really fight necessarily just one-on-one. Undefeated Ghoul does end up getting spotted out here. He is going to get taken down, I believe. There's an avalanche toss. A couple more right clicks should do it. War's taking a lot of damage. Gonna have to TP home before anything else happens, and actually both do and are able to get away from that one.
Yeah, in the meantime, they lose their tier 2 mid, and they pick up a tier 1 bot lane. So overall, not bad for the Radiant side. Nice Glimmer Cape initiation there from the Wisp towards the Tiny, and they'll be able to take down that AA, whose role is pretty much to be on the other side of the map at any given time, finding a little bit of farm and contributing an Ice Blast to the team fight, and doing so has helped him out quite a bit. He's only one component away from his Aghanims 25 minutes into the game, so the AA certainly definitely going to be an influential force hereafter, and is already level 11, so that 17-second Ice Blast could be pretty damn useful. Mid lane they pick up Dazzle as well, and the Wisp barely surviving.
Yeah, he actually does have an Ice Blast stuff. I'd be curious if we did see the AA go for it. Not going to be able to hit it this time around, unfortunately. And interestingly, is actually only about 600 gold away from finishing that off, which is going to be, like you said, just a complete and total, really difficult part of their pushing lineup. Like, if you've already got the Dragon Knight in the middle of everything, call down Tombstone, excuse me, Snowball, everything else, it's one more layer that adds a huge problem to your defense. So I like what I'm seeing here. I think that Aspera is pretty much playing this how they need to, although that being said, with them pushing up, they have been able to find the Ancient Apparition a couple of times and make him pay for being out of position. Yeah,
definitely Ice Blast going to be very nice up against the sustain provided by that Wisp. So we'll see how that fares. Lina, a little bit under farm considering the start she had in the game, but is also 250 gold away from her Aghanim Scepter, so she'll be able to farm that up momentarily here with the regen rune ticking away, and that'll be some nice burst damage added. BKB piercing burst damage at that for both the Gyrocopter and the Dragon Knight.
Yeah, definitely. Tiny moving on over here. He's going to be able to take these stacks. Obviously, the Granite Goal is making it a little bit more difficult because of the extra bonus HP that they have. Looks like Smiley wants to hang out here as well to soak on up a little bit of EXP. Always nice to give that to your supports.
Yeah, and 700 gold or so away from his Blink Dagger is the line.
What do you think they end up going for next on this Gyrocopter? Like, one of the big problems that I end up finding with this hero, particularly against the Tiny, is that he can have problems with that, with the sort of, what is it, craggy exterior there from Tiny.
Yeah, I mean, like BKB, generally speaking, can mitigate that. With the Dragon Knight kind of being the frontliner, though, I feel like he probably just goes something like Butterfly. But BKB would certainly be the conservative route to go for the gyro. If not, I feel like Butterfly does a lot of work for him here. Most of the damage output probably going to be from Tiny, but Laguna Blade and Finger of Death, they force him into a heart build eventually, or into the BKB earlier on. The Aghanim Scepter now out for Lina, and it comes right at the time that the high ground is going to be threatened. So we'll see. Already 1101 jumping forward pretty brazenly towards that tombstone, and they're going to be able to heal it up at least for the time being. Call down going to be dropped onto 2. The first missile will hit 2. The second only going to hit that Undying. He won't be able to soul rip up his tombstone, and SVB trying to find trades on the other side of the map, but not sure if that's the right call for them to make, really. Snowball is going to catch out Dale, but he'll survive for now, and their melee racks pretty much forfeit on their side, so really not looking to fight at this point. And Tiny, with his Aghanim Scepter, he does quite a bit to buildings, but is a little bit late to the party here. And Undershock now going to find him out. Ice Blast going to hit him with the glancing blow, not with the impact, but the Breathe Fire will take out the Wisp, and there's no TP on this Tiny, so he's going to fall as well. And they really make no effort to defend their base. They lose a lane of racks, and they die off mid lane. So a little bit of, I don't know, hubris from SVB there, and they forfeit quite a bit in that engagement.
You know, they did, and it looked like Tiny was going to try and go for the backdoor, or not the backdoor, but just the damage on the range barracks over here. He did manage to take down the tier 3 mid, so a bit of a silver lining on what was still a big problem, because I don't know if it's completely worth it. They've sort of been trading behind all game long, it feels like. They were trading tier 1s for tier 2s on their side. They were trading now racks for tier 3s. I don't know, it's just, it seems a little bit like they're one step behind Aspera in terms of their pushing power, and the question is this combination of IoTiny going to be able to make it up in the later game?
Yeah, it's interesting to see why they're so convinced they could not fight in that top lane. I mean, you take a look at the net worth overall, and it's pretty much at parity, as is the experience. So both teams kind of have the same fighting potential at this point. A couple better team fight spells, perhaps, for the Radiant side, as the Earthspike misses onto Undefeated Gaul, and the LSA misses as well. Laguna Blade going to come out trying to bring down the AA. Won't be able to do so. Glimmer Cape goes out onto the Lina. Undershot going to pop his BKB. LSA will be there to bring down the AA, and the relocate out from the Wisp keeps him safe for now. Self-fuels onto the Lina. Dragon Tail onto Pikachu. Now he's been completely isolated, and the Tiny will be brought down on the Wayward side. So AA for Tiny, definitely a poor trade for the side of SVB, and Aspera going to jump right into the pit now with Dragon Form still available for half its duration.
This is looking really, really bad right now for SVB. They definitely need to make something happen. And with Tiny down for that long, and he does have buyback, but like honestly at this point, your Tiny is, because he went Midas, they needed to sort of delay this out longer and longer until he was actually able to get another item, because effectively right now he's 2 items behind the gyro, kind of. It's really difficult.
Yeah, and really not tanky enough either on this Tiny, only with the Treads drums. That's going to help him out stat-wise. So now Aegis in the hands of the Gyrocopter, and Aspera looking at full strength at this point. And they still need the Dragon Form, so 35 seconds on that. Tiny respawning as well, so maybe we see a little bit of hesitation on the high ground push, but they're already going to send the Ice Blast through, and it's going to connect onto 2. Lina and the Undying, that'll force them back for sure. The Spirit's trying to drag the wave back here, nuke it down. Ice Charge not going to connect onto Pikachu. And for now, just some chipping away with the medallion there. 1101 in a bit of trouble. Are they going to commit for it? No. Sigil will be there as well as the Glimmer Cape. And Pikachu completely isolated. He's going to be able to toss back the Gyro, though. Grave keeps him up from long range with 4RZ. And the Tower Shot will bring him down. It's just the Aegis, though. But still a free pick for SVB. And Call Down now down as well. Jump forward from Undershock. He's going to pop the BKB. He'll get Laguna Blade instantly. Ice Blast is going to connect onto 3. Toss forward onto the Undying. Is going to be onto 1101. Glimmer Cape will keep him up for now. Pikachu a little bit isolated out. And the Tiny may drop here. And he will drop the relocate just a fraction of a second too late. Has a buyback available. And Undershock's BKB is down. Undying on the sidelines as well. They're going to pop the Glyph now and perhaps consider buying back this Tiny. They will buy him back, but the relocate in from worst is a second too late, just as the original relocate was for him. They're going to TP in. The Lion, the call down will be there. First missile not going to connect. Lion to be able to blink out to the east. And the Grave keeps up Undershock for now. Afterlife jumping in. Ice Blast going to connect on to 3. Smiley going to be the one to drop first. He gets his finger of death off before going down. Toss is going to be there from Pikachu. 1101 still up with his life steal. Brings him down. 5 heroes down for SVB. GG is called. And Aspera just overwhelmed them in the base despite feeding that Aegis over early.
Really, really effective team fight there. Still pushing down the tower, doing everything that they needed to do in terms of zoning out the correct heroes. A couple of relocate misses that might have made the difference, but honestly, at the end of the day, you had 3 Ice Blasts go in there as well with Aghanim. Such a good play there by Aspera, and that looks like we're going to be going on to Game 3 here.
Yeah, feels like, as you mentioned, a really turned the tides of most of these fights, and that early Aghanims doing tons of work there. So, well played. All around to Aspera there, but this specifically to Undefeated Goal. MRP Lyrical Gangster are going to be back, guys, for Game 3 of our second series of the day, Game Show Global Esports Dota 2 Cup. We'll be back momentarily.